Welcome to the Construction Excellence podcast. We're here with Emma Hooper, who will talk to us a little bit today about AI in construction and what that might mean for the future. So welcome, Emma. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Emma, who you are, where you come from?
My name's Emma Hooper. I am Head of Information Management Strategy at RLB Digital. What that kind of means is I'm still doing some consultancy work, assisting clients within organisations, and still dipping my toe into information management on projects. But also the other half of my job is really looking at information management from a whole sort of industry perspective, because I'm involved in many sort of groups, standards, and I'm also vice chair of NEMA and Building Smart UK 9.
So you're certainly going to keep yourself busy then, by the sounds of that.
It's never ending.
So I've seen your posts on LinkedIn, and I know you're very active in kind of the digital world, and there's a hot topic of AI and what that means for the construction industry. I guess for those listening at the minute, it might be a kind of a topic where we've heard it branded around, don't really understand what AI is. Is there some kind of definition, or what is AI? Or is it still very much an unknown?
No, AI is really the broad study. So it's kind of like you would refer to physics. So it's much like broader, and it can be broken down into many other parts to it. It's kind of what we focus on really at the moment when we talk about AI is machine learning, which is a subset of it. Where a computer is actually generating its own code, really, learning from it. And a particular part of that we're focused on is really generative AI, and that's where things like large language models and ChatGPT fall into. So it's a very broad bucket of things. AI is, but that's kind of what we're talking about, and what's always in the news at the moment.
And I guess it's been around for a while now, hasn't it? It's not a relatively new term.
No, people have been working in this sort of area for years now, and it's like anything. It comes to fruition when there's that one thing that interfaces with the wider world, I suppose, and that was ChatGPT, and that everything has exploded from that. And it's gone insane, really.
It has, yeah. So talking about kind of construction then, and where AI will fit into that, how do you think it will be applied in the industry?
Yeah, so I've seen examples of this, and also looking at what other organisations are doing, reading award submissions, and there seems to be a definite focus area on specific parts. One area that I've seen quite a lot of activity on is using things like imagery off site, so either photographs or real-time sort of camera footage to actually monitor progress on site, and then feed that data back into updating things like the programs and the project plans and everything, which I think is really cool, because you're getting that real-time feedback loop then, and you're not having to have a lag then in terms of updating it and making decisions. Other areas as well. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, based on that, do you find that the imagery is cameras that are set up around site, and then that's just fed back as a live feed, or?
There's either fixed cameras on site, or there's some areas where there's kind of robotics involved, or even there's one where there's the headsets as well on workers' helmets. So there's various ways that I've seen this being done, which I think is it's kind of cool in a way, because it's just capturing that live information. But again, with photographs as well, there's also regulatory areas. So actually, looking at and checking the quality of work from photographs and things like that, and also automatically tagging photographs again for checking of regulations and things.
So it's almost taking away that manual process of somebody going up to site and having to visit, take the photographs, come back to the office, review them with a wider team, and
exactly.
go from there.
And I think large language models are quite good at that, looking at imagery and deriving, even from that. And another application of that as well is using sort of satellite imagery as well, and analysing sites and context around buildings. You can actually sort of query the imagery, and the large language model will help arrive at sort of a site strategy as well.
Right.
So I thought that was really quite cool. Those sorts of areas are really good. And then there's obviously the whole sort of generative design application, which has been around for quite a few years. I've seen this well before sort of lockdown. So actually utilising AI to optimise design solutions to arrive at the most sort of economic design based on a series of variables and principles, which is what you do when you're designing. You're doing that with, obviously with your brain. You're trying to find the most optimal solution. It's just obviously with AI, it can be done a lot faster, and you really can come to that probably that optimized solution. So yeah, that's quite.
I guess sometimes in a lot more objective way as well. So it removes some of the human element and the decision making and the bias behind why some of the decisions are made.
Yeah, but in another way, maybe could introduce bias. There's
Maybe
swings and roundabouts of these things, and you've always got to remember there's got to be a human,
yes,
the human element involved still, which I'll talk about later. But it's definitely not just a magic bullet at the moment.
No, and I guess there's so many unknowns that lie around it. Well, it all sounds very cool. It's how is that implemented into the day-to-day runnings of construction to keep the ball rolling without it being a disruptor.
Yeah, and I think one of its superpowers is definitely on the productivity side. So the everyday things that we have to do that we don't like doing, organising all meeting minutes, just the general productivity of admin, really. I think that is definitely an area where it will really help drive efficiencies.
Yeah. And how far advanced do you think it is in the industry? Do you think it's widely adopted and ready for mainstream use?
From what I've seen at the moment is I think there's still at the start of the journey. I think within the industry, we're starting to see signs of its implementation, but I think we're actually quite cautious with regards to it, which actually I think could be a good thing. Rather than just going right into the deep end, I think organisations are probably thinking about this and looking at their policies and thinking about how it's going to affect them. So I'm hoping that's what's happening and why it's just not everywhere. But I do think, I think we're being more sensible than I thought we'd be on it.
I think that's it. That's a lot of the nature of the construction industry, though. We are a cautious being in a lot of senses until we're pushed into it, and then it's adopted all the way.
Yeah.
It takes a few years sometimes to get on board.
Yeah, it has to be really driven from an organisation perspective. Really, you've got to get your ducks in a row first within the organisation before you implement something like that. It's very much around like the whole information management BIM thing. And one of the things is because I do lots of presentations around information management, and one of the messages I'm trying to get out there is let's look at information management within an organisation first. We tend to focus on projects so much within this industry because obviously that's where all the activity happens. But when it comes to information, actually, we need to look at it from an organisational point of view first, and to look at the strategies and flows of information and how that's then used to benefit your organisation before we start to then go into the project. And it's no different with AI or machine learning. You've got to put that basic work in to understand that, and then you can start to see where you get the value and return on investment from it.
Yeah, and I suppose it's kind of like when you touched on BIM on that side of it. Whilst that's been around for years and years, there isn't widespread full adoption in the industry. There's still pockets of the industry that doesn't use BIM, and that's not a part of their business model. So I guess it's kind of getting them on that digital journey as a start as well, and getting the whole industry on that digital journey before you can even begin to touch on things like AI.
Yeah, well, weird thing with BIM was, obviously, maybe about nearly 20 years now, and we very much was led by the shiny 3D models of it, and that's tangible. We can see it. It looked really impressive. But actually, we needed to do the work again in those foundations first, getting the information sorted, really looking at the science of the information, working out how it all connects and how it's standardized. And if we'd have had that in place and then brought in the shiny, it would have actually worked much better, because when it comes to information, as an industry, I always treat us as like one organisation working together, because, structure of information doesn't change from organisation to organisation. It's the same. We're all in it together, and that was never really, we never thought of it like that. And I think 2024, we've almost got the same opportunity as 2007. We're at the start of something, and I think we need to learn from the lessons of BIM and how we went down one way. It's hard to come back and see, actually, right, this is here, great. How can we really get the true benefit from it that's really going to help our industry?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So you've touched on kind of the benefits of productivity and removing some of those more admin heavy focused tasks with AI. What other kind of benefits do you see it bringing to the industry?
So yeah, it's definitely around the productivity side of things, and that real time removal of the lag. Obviously, tasks can be completed faster, freeing people to do more things. But I'm just hoping that time frames don't get squeezed because of that. And it's really strange, because when BIM started to come out and you had all the marketing around it, and now you've got AI, it's almost like, well, actually, if I swap that word back for BIM, it was just like it was back then, promising all these things and productivity gains and all this return on investment. And so yeah, it's like I said, we just need to think about it properly this time, and then we can really get the real benefits of the bottom line and the return on investment from it. And in terms of just improving productivity, efficiency, improving things like checking and all those things that we're not great at in this industry. We are very unproductive as an industry, even though we have lots and lots of technology. We're still always at the bottom or near the bottoms of the graphs. And why is that? It's because, again, you can't just keep throwing technology at this. It's not going to work. We have to do, those foundations first.
Absolutely. And how do we bring everybody on that journey? Because we talk about technology and the adoption of that, and when we talk major organisations in the industry, the big players, they have the time, the resources to be able to dedicate to evolving this as a process. But when we talk about SMEs and your smaller organisations, how do we support and allow those to adopt these kind of technologies whilst trying to focus on the day-to-day projects that keep the business going, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, again, from that, so I suppose basic productivity sort of perspective, we've got things like Microsoft Copilot, for instance, is coming out, isn't it? And I'm sure that will be integrated soon to many of the products that we all use every day. I suppose if you use a spreadsheet, it'll be there. In some cases like that, I think it will infiltrate everyone. And obviously, things like ChatGPT are free, but again, there's caution around using things like that within an organisation. But from an industry perspective, I think there needs to be an overall strategy for how we work together as the construction industry with regards to AI. So it's not just every organisation going away and doing it themselves, because eventually all that data and information will have to come together at some point. And if that is all different, which it will be, obviously, we're still in the same having the same problems that we've always had before. And then you could say, well, we'll just get machine learning, another algorithm to sort that out. But then you'll just keep building algorithms and machine learning on top of it becomes a pyramid. So I think, if we actually start an industry perspective and get those foundations right and actually focus on the training data side AI, and think about how we can actually almost create a training data set that is good quality because it's been assured, it's trustworthy, it's neutral, so there's less bias in it. Then actually people then with their solutions can then start to learn from that training data. So we're actually using similar sources, and they're open to everyone. So maybe that's a solution. It's just off the top of my head, but I've been thinking about. Might never happen. Many reasons might not happen, but I just think we need to again come together and share more. Because like what you were saying, there is that risk of there being that divide again. That digital divide of the bigger companies against the smaller ones, and we're losing companies within this industry at a rate of knots sometimes, and we don't want obviously that to happen because of the digital sort of divide. So I think anything we do, we have to always think about the wider impact, in terms of organisations, in terms of the environment as well. So many solutions about reducing amount of carbon that we use, improving sustainability. Excuse me, but if our strategy is just to keep throwing AI at things, then actually that's going to create more energy waste, water waste. Our consumption is going to go up. If we actually thought about almost meeting it halfway so it can then accelerate, and we would actually be we'd be consuming less energy, and we are one of the most energy intensive industries on the planet, and what we don't want is for AI to come along and increase that even more. Again, there's so many other variables within this. It's not just about asking a question and getting an answer. There is always an impact on everything we do, and we might not see it, but there will be an impact somewhere else.
And I guess a lot of this is around learning ourselves what it's capable of and what kind of impact it will actually have on industry, because there's so many unknowns that surround AI and where it might go and how it might evolve, that it's difficult to plan for that in a lot of cases.
It is, and it's like even doing this podcast now, it's all really opinion, and it's not necessarily fact, and you can only trust your instinct with some of this thing, this type of thing, and you're learning from your own past experiences almost, and you can, I don't know, I suppose we all have different perspectives as well. So my perspective is very much from the side of information, how it changes it, and that's why I'm really intrigued and fascinated by AI, in particular machine learning, because there is definitely, in terms of sort of the information science side, that can impact machine learning, and machine learning will impact that. So it's like, how is that landscape going to change? But we just don't know, because this technology is evolving constantly. Well, that's what we're being told anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see that with kind of day-to-day life and how things have evolved over the last 6 months, and how it's been integrated into certain applications that we use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no,
so you can see the impact it's going to have on industry. It's just how we get there, and how do we be cautious about that without getting too excited along the way. And I think it's like you said about just creating that plan and making sure that you've got the foundations to be able to support what you want to achieve with AI. So it's really, really good. I think it's an exciting time for sure for the industry. I think there's a lot of possibilities with AI to be able to integrate that and change the way that we work. And it'll almost bring different skill sets into the industry and require different people to be recruited, which will in turn bring a different mindset on how we approach certain activities, which I think is a really, really exciting time to be in industry for that.
No, definitely. I think that our industry is really an exciting place, and I don't know if we sell it well enough sometimes, that it it isn't just about building walls with bricks on site. There's huge opportunities in this, and I think that the digital aspect is really exciting, and how we're going to utilise this technology, because there's so much scope where it could be used, but it just needs to be used in the right way.
Absolutely. Have you seen any projects where it's been successfully implemented?
Not really, not the projects I work on. No.
I wish I could say I have, but unfortunately, my projects aren't that cool.
I've read about projects, but yeah, I've
Yeah.
not actually been on any projects. No. I mean, I don't really tend to work on many projects either. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that there's a lot of UK adoption, or is it more of a global approach to this, where we're learning from?
From what I've seen at the moment, it's just mainly been around the UK.
All right.
But
Okay.
that's kind of what I've only been exposed to, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. So I guess from my point of view is when we talk about AI, then what would say your biggest takeaways of it be for progress in the industry? So if you were going to pick 3 or 4 things to say, this is where I think maybe in 5 years' time we might be with AI, what would that be?
I am not even going to predict
Not that I like
5
to
years' time.
you on the spot or anything.
So for me, I think my main focus is around the quality, because if you don't have quality, you can't trust your information, and if you can't trust it, you won't use it, and then it's just waste. So for me, it's very much about us looking at the training data side of things and improving the quality of that, removing bias, for instance. And one aspect of bias that I've been thinking a lot about is with regards to a lot of our information is generated from certain software packages, for instance. So people always think about bias with regards to people, but I'm thinking about bias with regards to information structures. And so if you were learning from a load of proprietary information and data, then the answer's going to be that as well, isn't it? So we've got to really think about what we're learning from. And I do believe we do need standardization around that to create that foundational level. One of the things I'm looking at is thinking about how we can improve that quality. And it's not just about using large language models, which get talked about all the time, but also looking at how we can bring other sort of techniques and tools with regards to structuring information. And one of the areas I've always been a massive sort of advocate of is this thing called knowledge graphs. So where we have connected information and all the semantics with regards to that. So you're actually building a connected graph of knowledge. So for me, that will actually help to improve the quality of the outputs from large language models, so they can work together. And there's also this thing called retrieval augmented generation, where again that helps to the large language models to connect to more sort of external sources of certain types of more specific domain information. And that's the construction industry. Obviously, a lot of our information isn't just on the internet. It is quite specific to our industry. So I think those types of things working together really would then improve what we do. So that's kind of the sort of area I'm looking at the moment. But for organisations, actually, again, looking at how they use information and data within their day-to-day running their organisations, mapping out the processes, the flows, the stakeholders, and then actually looking at individual areas and thinking, right, I think that area there will really benefit from machine learning, and also think about, is it an automated approach or is it an augmented approach? So are you going to actually help and assist a human rather than replace them? And I think to start with, that's more of the right sort of solution. Then we can start to move away towards more automation. And I think one of the areas that we can really target is moving from sort of unstructured to structured data, because humans aren't that great at that. And it's also about assessing the risk as well. And is it more risky actually for a human to do it? And in some cases it is than if a machine does it. is that like, it's just common sense really, and what you would do in organisations all the time. It's assess risk about what you're implementing. But it's like anything with regards to information data. You've got to start with a good old-fashioned strategy and looking at what you currently do to get the best out of technology. And then I suppose in terms of, I was thinking about the people aspect as well. And that is probably one of my main concerns in this as well, which is slightly outside of the built environment. If we think about the ways that we consume, produce information, we're constantly doing it. Information creates our realities. We seem to be moving away from this whole being able to search for information, having to read areas and join the dots ourselves, into just asking a question and getting one response, and then that's it. But how do you broaden your knowledge? How do you find or accidentally find something that you never knew existed, which might actually put you on a different career path or a different train of thought? It's those things that I'm slightly worried that we will miss as people, which makes us who we are almost, and I think my sort of takeaway there is to question things and stay curious and read around things still, and don't just take answers as that's the answer. Because I
think you're right. There is a danger of that, because it's I look at people around me, my family, my friends, who will read one piece of information which has come from a questionable source some other times, and that becomes fact.
Yeah.
And I think that's the really scary thing, is that if that's the kind of generation that comes through, and where that's an accepted way of learning, then we find ourselves in a situation where we potentially could have a lot of catastrophes based on misinformation.
Yeah, and disinformation as well. And how would we ever come up with those light bulb moments that have got us to where we are as humans, and I don't want us to lose that magic almost, as I think as well we'll just suffer from more and more mental health problems because we're not using our brains in the way that they were originally wired. So it's thinking around that as well. We are creative, and I just don't want to lose that magic, but it's all about having common sense.
It is, and I think like we say, there is so many possibilities that's out there. It's just it's learning what's going to be the right application for the industry to make it a success, and to make people's lives easier, better, more productive, without taking away, kind of like you say, that human element of making those decisions, making those choices.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember it all starts and ends with humans.
Absolutely does.
We can't forget.
So if there's a company out there who's just starting quite early on in their digital journey, looking to start getting those processes in place, trying to start implementing AI and all the things that are out there for them, what would be the best kind of signposting to go away and find out more about it? Is there somewhere they could go to help and aid on that journey?
So I do think we need to be having more debate and discussion around AI as an industry, because I don't think we have enough at the moment, and it's such an important subject. And I do think we'll start to see that happen more and more. I'm part of a AI workshop which is open to anyone to be a part of. If anyone follows me on LinkedIn, I did post some links to that. So we're having really great discussions within that, and it goes on many different tangents. But it's really great to hear other people's perspectives, because everyone has their own unique opinion on this, and it's great to see what other people are thinking with regards to it. And I do think we need to be doing more, though, from an industry perspective. So industry bodies, initiatives need to be taking this much more seriously and thinking about it. And I think the CIOB have done something as well around AI, so that might be a good place to start. And so there are discussions happening, and I'm sure things will start to come out of it eventually.
It's almost like watch this space over the next 12 months.
It is, yeah. There'll be a lot coming out, but again, it really does go back to common sense and just to think, actually, what is it you want to achieve, and is this the best way of achieving it? It might not be. It might be just to use, old-fashioned programming or software. It's not to be. AI is not the solution to everything, every single task.
No, that's it. And when you have come as some of the smaller projects, the application of that in this early adoption is probably not suitable.
I mean, there will be areas where again, there will be productivity gains, but it's just a smaller scale. So it's like anything. When it comes to information, it doesn't really matter on the size of the project. I mean, we always hear this thing, oh, it's a BIM project, but what does that even mean? Every project has information on it. We all produce it and we all use it. Okay, some projects might use more structured information, like with databases, but that's really what BIM is to me. It's about that structured information element of it. But we all structure information at different levels. We all use spreadsheets. It's just thinking about it from an information data point of view rather than this thing called BIM.
That's it. Yeah, it's if you think about it on that broader spectrum, it kind of takes away the scary parts about it.
It does, because we all know what information is, don't we? And we'll use it. So, and this is the same with things like machine learning. It's just a way of helping to process it and move data from one place to another. And who does it? Is it us or is it the machine? That just break it down into what it actually is and make it less scary.
Yeah, that's it. As an industry, we'll get there, as we always do. And I think it's a really, really interesting topic, and has so many possibilities about which way it will go, and how it will be adopted. And I think that's just an exciting time to be in this sector and see how that evolves.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to be an exciting and interesting few years.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time, Emma. And anybody who wants to get more information, I'm sure Emma will welcome a LinkedIn message and get involved in the AI workshop to be part of the discussion further. But really appreciate your time on it and look forward to seeing what comes next.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.